Ingolf Tuerck, who is 58 years old, was born in Germany. He was a highly charismatic man, especially when it came to interacting with women. He had large, muscular hands and a sporty physique. Ingolf would always draw attention whenever he entered public places. Some even likened him to an Arnold Schwarzenegger, but despite his outward strength, he was a calm person on the inside. He enjoyed skiing in the Alps, smoking cigars, and riding motorcycles. According to Ingolf himself, during his teenage years in East Germany, his talent as a pole vaulter led him to the Olympic team, where he was a reserve player. The team participated in the Olympic Games in Moscow in 1980. Later, Ingolf graduated from the Medical University in Berlin. This happened just a few months before the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. He underwent his residency at the Charité Hospital in Berlin, one of the largest in Europe. He became an expert in laparoscopic prostatectomy, a little-known operation used to remove cancerous prostate glands. People would gather just to watch him perform the surgery. Everyone was amazed by his skills. He was a star within his team, always disciplined and determined. He was the first to master the cutting-edge technologies in this field at that time. In 2001, Ingolf moved to Norfolk, Virginia, USA, at the request of urologist Gerald Jordan to teach him the use of new technologies in laparoscopic prostatectomy. He was supposed to stay in the USA for 6 months. By the way, at that time, Ingolf was married to a nurse he had met at the Charité Hospital. They even had 2 children. However, in Virginia, he met another woman and married her within a year. After spending half a year in the USA, Ingolf returned to Germany. Rumors about his incredible surgical skills spread worldwide. He caught the attention of John Libertino, the president of the urology department at Leahy Hospital in Burlington, Massachusetts. Ingolf remained at this hospital for 6 years. While he was still a respected physician, he was no longer as cutting-edge as before. Other surgeons had mastered his techniques, so his skills lost their exclusivity, and he increasingly became a relic of the past. The use of robotic assistants during surgeries was becoming more popular. Later, in 2008, Ingolf accepted an offer to head the urology department at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center in Brighton, Massachusetts. This medical center even used his face on a billboard for robotic surgery. Ingolf became one of the top surgeons at St. Elizabeth's. The hospital even made a promotional video in which Ingolf rode his motorcycle to the hospital and then worked out in the gym, saying that being a surgeon was physically demanding. While he led the urology department in Brighton, his second wife filed for divorce. This happened in 2015. Close friends believed that this second divorce was one of the most painful situations in Ingolf's life. Furthermore, it was a quite long and exhausting process. The divorce lasted for over 2 years due to custody issues concerning their 2 children. Custody was granted to Ingolf's ex-wife, whom he accused of being irrational and hysterical because she restricted his communication with the children and refused to create a joint parenting plan. The divorce court's decision was rendered on May 3, 2017. In November of the same year, Ingolf was accused of malpractice by Robert Young, a patient who claimed that Ingolf had not completely removed cancer cells when performing a prostatectomy, leading to the disease's return. A year after this allegation, the patient passed away, leaving behind 2 orphan children. In November 2017, Ingolf also met Caitlin McLean, whom everyone knew as Katie. She was born in the village of Dover, Massachusetts, on August 15, 1974. She later lived in Belmont, where she completed school. Katie, a redhead with blue eyes, was 45 years old. She was raising 3 children from previous relationships: Sophia, Mary Grace, and Sam. Katie studied occupational therapy at the University of Massachusetts and worked at a daycare center, practicing Reiki, a form of Japanese alternative medicine belonging to the field of energy therapy. Reiki involves transmitting and directing energy from a practitioner to a patient using their hands, promoting emotional and physical healing. Katie had her own Reiki medicine business called Birch Energy and Healing. Her friends confirmed that energy therapy was her passion, and she was always ready to help others, believing that love could heal the most serious wounds. She also had a great love for birch trees, which is why her business was named as such, as she believed that the birch tree was a sacred ladder that connected the earth and the sky. Katie also enjoyed walking in the woods and on Massachusetts beaches. She loved sunflowers and blue hydrangeas, had a talent for making new friends practically anywhere she went, and was a volunteer for many organizations, hosting annual Christmas parties. Ingolf and Katie met online in November 2017. At that time, both were already divorced. Katie, who lived in a small house in Sudbury, noticed Ingolf's strong physique and his story about starting his career as a surgeon in communist Germany. Ingolf owned a 500 square meter house valued at approximately $1.7 million. He was impressed by Katie's beauty and how caring of a mother she was. For their first date, they went to a restaurant with live music and then rode around Dover on a motorcycle. After 4 months of dating, Ingolf proposed to Katie and asked her to move in with him along with her children. He also suggested selling her house. Katie and her children moved in with Ingolf 4 months after their engagement in March 2019. From that point on, Katie began spending $1,000 a month to help with the mortgage on the house and to renovate the basement gym and the outdoor swimming pool. In the evenings, the couple would stroll the streets of Dover, holding hands, along with their Labrador named Cooper. According to neighbors, they were the perfect couple. Katie's therapeutic license expired in August 2019, but she didn't renew it because Ingolf wanted her to stop working immediately after the move. Perhaps the neighbors found out about this or suspected something was amiss. In 2019, Ingolf's life drastically changed both professionally and personally. On May 31, 2019, Ingolf had his last appointment at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center. In November of the same year, the Massachusetts Attorney General's office required him to pay $150,000 to the Men's Heals program for surgical procedures he didn't perform and consultations he didn't attend for 6 years. Additionally, if he wanted to continue practicing medicine, he would have to fund the program for several years himself. Employees at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center confirmed that they officially parted ways with Ingolf in February 2020. After this, Ingolf and Katie's relationship began to deteriorate. Ingolf spent a lot of time at home, feeling depressed and exacerbating it with heavy drinking. He didn't sleep enough, sometimes waking up in the middle of the night to go to the gym. During this time, he rarely took showers. Ingolf didn't tell Katie about the Attorney General's investigation or the malpractice complaint. One day, she found out about everything. This happened when he went to Germany, and she looked into the safe that Ingolf kept at home. That's when she found all the documentation related to both cases. When she saw these papers, she felt like she didn't know Ingolf at all, which she later told her neighbors. Changes in Ingolf's mood and behavior became more noticeable. There were clear signs of insecurity and jealousy. One day, he opened a closet, and it was messy. He then took everything out of there and ordered Katie to tidy up the closet. In addition, Ingolf prohibited her from driving both her Mercedes-Benz and her Jeep. In December 2019, they had an argument in the bedroom, during which Ingolf grabbed Katie and hit her head against the bedpost, squeezed one hand around her neck, and covered her nose and mouth with the other. Katie's vision darkened. When she regained consciousness, she screamed so loudly that one of her children heard and came into the room. Later, Katie wrote to one of her close friends that before she closed her eyes, she only saw Ingolf's face contorted with anger. She thought he wanted to kill her. After the argument, Ingolf apologized and said he loved her. The following week, they flew to Las Vegas and got married in a church. On January 11, 2020, Katie turned off her phone while performing a Reiki massage. When she returned home, Ingolf was waiting for her at the front door. He had tried to call her many times. When she approached him, he grabbed her with his massive hands, lifted her from the floor, and then let her go. Katie fell on her back, hitting herself so hard that her shoes came off. When she asked him why he threw her to the floor, he claimed it wasn't intentional, and she just slipped out of his hands. Less than a month after this incident, Katie went to the police station in Dover, stating that she intended to file for divorce and wanted the police to be present during the process. She didn't want to press charges to keep the divorce private and avoid causing Ingolf more trouble. According to court reports, divorce papers were ready on February 7th. Katie told the police that her husband became more aggressive and controlling after losing his job. As evidence, she mentioned that Ingolf used a tracking app to always know her location. He also checked her phone to see who she was talking to, and there were cameras all over their house. Once, he asked Katie to print her call log to learn more about the people she was communicating with. Katie had a toned figure and was into running. Ingolf began to monitor her weight. One of Katie's friends noticed that she had changed since getting into a relationship with Ingolf. Her makeup was less tidy, and her hair was not as well kept as before. It seemed like her energy was drained. One day, while she was sitting with her younger son, helping him with a school project, Ingolf approached them and said that he was the king of the castle, and she was just a guest. He leaned in and cut off a strand of her red hair. When Katie tried to stop him, she got cut by the scissors. During a house party, Katie took the opportunity to tell a few friends that she couldn't bear the marriage anymore. Ingolf found out about this. After the guests left, Katie approached her husband and sat on his lap, but he pushed her to the floor. That's when she decided to contact the police and disclose everything that had been happening in the past few months. She also expressed concern to the police about the firearms Ingolf kept in the house. When the police heard about the weapons and what had transpired, they immediately grew concerned. The police asked Katie to file an official complaint, and she agreed. She got into her Jeep and drove towards the district court. There, she was told that after filing the complaint, she needed to return to the police station for assistance. When they began processing the paperwork, Ingolf walked in and said he came because he was worried that his wife was making false statements against him. He claimed that Katie was jealous and controlling, and he had never used any violence against her. When Katie was given a restraining order, she got into her car and drove home, as recommended. She showed Ingolf the order, but he refused to leave the house. Afraid, Katie called the police, and several police cars headed towards Ingolf's house. When they arrived, he greeted them. The police ordered him to accompany them to the safe where he kept firearms. They confiscated 5 guns and ammunition, as well as his gun license. Ingolf then gathered his things and left. He lived in hotel rooms and in a mobile home owned by his friend in Florida. Despite no longer living with Katie and her children, he found ways to remind them of his presence. He canceled the water delivery and arranged for the company to take away all the unused water that was already in the house. He attempted to take Katie's Jeep and tampered with the heater, reducing the heating, which made the house cold. On February 6, 2020, he was summoned to court for violating the restraining order. He was also charged with assaulting a family member, 2 counts of assault with a weapon, and a strangulation charge. Ingolf claimed his innocence. The judge's decision was a blow to Katie. Ingolf was ordered to sell the house, and Katie and the children were supposed to move out by July 2020. Although they were married, the house was registered solely in Ingolf's name. Katie confided in a friend whom she hired as a bodyguard, revealing that Ingolf had an enormous ego and a despotic character. She said that throughout his life, he had worked to create an image of a good person and an excellent surgeon. Deep down, he suffered from a God complex, typical of narcissists. Additionally, Katie found out that despite Ingolf's claim that he traveled to Moscow as part of the Olympic Reserve in 1980, this wasn't true. 2 out of 3 members of that team didn't even know Ingolf. Despite all this, in early May 2020, Katie told a neighbor that she and Ingolf had reconciled and were planning to attend family therapy sessions. She expressed her joy that her children could finish their education in Dover. On May 4, 2020, Katie requested the lifting of the restraining order, stating that she felt safe with him and believed in his intention to save the marriage. The judge agreed to lift the order but did not drop the charges, so Ingolf had to stay away from home until the case was closed. On May 13, 2020, the judge denied Ingolf's request to return home. This was one of the conditions that allowed him to remain free. Violating the restraining order, Ingolf came home to have dinner with his family. After dinner, he, Katie, and the children played a board game in the living room. Soon, the children went downstairs to watch TV. After some time, Ingolf and Katie began to argue due to jealousy and text messages. Katie didn't want the children to hear their argument, so they went upstairs to the bedroom and closed the door. Later that night, on May 14, 2020, one of the children in bed heard a sound of impact, while another noticed the dog barking and heard heavy footsteps from Ingolf. When the children woke up the next day, the house was eerily quiet. The bedroom door was locked, and none of the cars were in place. In addition, friends of Katie and Ingolf received strange messages from Ingolf at 4:30 in the morning, accusing Katie of being a vengeful demon who played and manipulated everyone. When friends tried to contact him, he didn't answer calls or messages. They also couldn't reach Katie. The children, unable to find their mother, called their father, who then went to Dover. Failing to find his wife, he contacted the police and reported her missing. Unfortunately, it was already too late. During the night when they were arguing in the bedroom, Katie struck Ingolf on the head with a glass. He grabbed her by the throat and strangled her until she lost consciousness. She fell into a coma and died. Afterward, he took her body and hid it. On Friday, May 15, 2020, the police discovered that both cars belonging to the couple were parked near the Residence Inn, where Ingolf had booked a room and was supposed to stay from May 8 to May 17. He occasionally stayed there after he and Katie began living separately. The police knocked on the door and called him by name, but there was no response. They asked a hotel employee to open the door, and there they found Ingolf bleeding on white sheets with cuts on his head, left wrist, and scratches on his legs. A syringe and a knife were found nearby. He was unconscious when they took him to Norwood Hospital. Simultaneously, a search was underway for Katie, who was not in that hotel room. The Norfolk police entered Ingolf's house, broke down the door to the bedroom, where Katie's bag and phone were found. Ingolf regained consciousness 24 hours after being found in the hotel room. On Saturday, May 16, 2020, during questioning, he confessed to the crime and provided the exact location where Katie's body was hidden. After killing her in their own home, Ingolf placed her body in the car and drove to a recently constructed, unsold mansion next to his house. He placed the body in a pond on the mansion's property, and to increase her weight, he put rocks in Katie's yoga pants. This was the only piece of clothing she had on. Divers found Katie's body on Saturday, May 16th at 11 p.m. Ingolf had hidden her body less than 2 blocks from their home. The body was found face down, 5 meters from the shore, in a pair of yoga pants filled with stones. There were scratches on Ingolf's arms and legs, which he sustained while making his way through the bushes near the pond. According to the forensic report, one of Katie's neck bones was broken. There were hematomas on her neck and inside neck muscles, as well as hematomas on her scalp and brain. The cause of death was asphyxiation. Katie was one of 6 women in Massachusetts killed by their partners since the pandemic began. Furthermore, her case was the first murder recorded in Dover in recent years. Despite confessing to the crime and informing the police of the body's location, on May 18, 2020, he was read the charges in court. He pleaded not guilty. Ingolf was arrested on a murder charge in Norfolk County Jail with no bail. The previous assault charges were dropped. Ingolf's defense did not contest the decision, but they did recall his reputation as an outstanding surgeon. Among the people he helped and saved over the years, there were individuals of all nationalities, religions, and races. The defense also claimed that Katie had requested the restraining order to make her a co-owner of the house. They promised to seek an acquittal when the case went to trial. Only Katie got to know the real Ingolf Tuerck, a man who strangled his wife in a fit of uncontrollable anger. Hopefully, he will never harm anyone again.